This demonstration will focus on how to enable supply chains to validate their data, ensure data quality in the sense that it's complete, correct, and consistent. A lot of the objectives of having a gateway for enabling the supply chain to validate its data is to reduce complexity, which enables a reduction of costs, increase throughput of data, ensuring that data is made available to both the organization and the supply chain so that it could be used, and importantly, to reduce the risk of build delays. Most often than not, when a supply chain is involved, it can be very difficult to get the data back to the organization in need in sufficient time. This demonstration, it will be looking at a validation portal that will enable users to validate their data, receive reports on where the data might be non-conforming, where it is not meeting the need of the supply chain and the organization. And it will also enable the supply chain to submit their data directly to the organization, reducing the number of emails and attachments that many organizations see today. So on the screen that you are watching now, you should be able to see a web browser. And at this point, it is pointing to a 1Spatial validation portal where a supply chain user is able to upload a data set that the supply chain has been requested to submit. The portal that you can see on the screen is very simple in its manner, with the aim of reducing time that users are understanding the use of it and more focusing on uploading data and getting a result. So prior to uploading the data, let's look at some data that a supply chain data user might submit. So I'm going to open a pro forma spreadsheet that I'm using in this demonstration. So we can see this form of the demonstration is an Excel spreadsheet. Supply chains might be submitting spreadsheets, they might be submitting shape files, CAD files, all depends on the nature of the work that they're out capturing today. So the spreadsheet that we can see here, the surveyor has been out in the field and has captured lots of information regarding to a survey that they've been required to capture. In this instance, an identifier to note the record so that they can refer back to it, and also some references to the type of survey, the land parcel that they are currently surveying in, the name of the surveyor. For the instance of this demonstration, we're using some theoretical names, and then we also have some other attributes that they might have recorded on the day of their survey. And importantly, in some instances, a location attribute, so an easting and northing, where the record was captured at that given time. So what we're going to do, I'm going to close my pro forma, so the spreadsheet that I've been capturing information in the field, and I'm now going to go to the validation portal, and I have a choice where I can click to browse or I can drop some files. So if we grab the spreadsheet that we captured earlier and select it and look to drag and drop on the page that we saw a moment ago, and so I'm just going to drop it here. We can see that that data set has now been uploaded and is ready for me to validate. So I'm going to quickly select run. That's now running. So what does that mean? So we've uploaded the data set of choice. We are now running some validation rules that are expected on the data by the supply chain. And then we are now given a file back that we can download. And on download, we can look at the report that we've received. So I'm now going to select the link, and I'm given an option to save the file. So I'm now going to save the file, which will now appear in the downloads directory of my machine. So now we have downloaded the file. We can see we've got our 1Spatial report here. So I'm now going to extract the file. Now, in terms of this video, we've created a zip file, but in any instances, you could have it so the download does not provide a zip. So we can now see in our 1Spatial directory, we've been given a supply data submission non-conformance report. So if we double click on this, so just like the input file, we provided a spreadsheet. The portal now on return has provided the same spreadsheet back. And you'll notice in addition, we now have a non-conformances tab. So if I select the non-conformance, and non-conformance being where a record in the data that I have submitted has failed a validation rule. So let's have a look here. So it's saying that row ID 2, so any row 2 in my spreadsheet that I've captured, has actually failed a number of validation checks. So it's saying that the weather description has failed. Please check, it should have a value. And if we scroll across, we can see that the weather description does not have a value. And the same for this feature, it has also failed in the sense that the northing is not an integer and has NA, so we can see that it's failed in that respect. So let's just check a number of other rules just so you can see the power of being able to validate the data. So we have another one here which is saying the weather description has the wrong value, and we can actually, it's put it in there the value that's incorrect. So let's check a number of other runs. This one's an interesting one. We're checking that the easting has a valid value and is in the range of the British National Grid. And if we went across, we would be able to see that it's failed that non-conformance. So very quickly, I can see that I've got some duplicates in my data and lots of other validation failures that happened. Traditionally, a lot of the supply chain would submit their data, and it would be up to the organization receiving the data to validate that data, find non-conformances, and where they find non-conformances, to feed this back to the supply chain for them to correct. This often generates lots of phone calls, lots of email communication, and importantly, lots of delays to the project cycle. What we've just demonstrated today is that we can simply log into a validation portal. We can validate our data to check that it's complete, correct, and consistent. And most importantly, we can actually reduce the time spent between the organization and supply chain communicating to one another and focus on data availability and building on time up. This is the supply chain data quality portal.